Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is actually a Sunday sacred service, and we did our service today live at 10 o'clock from Unity of Sedona, but I think Facebook Live was having some technical issues. So rather than just have everybody miss the talk, I thought I'll just do the talk over. It won't be exact, of course, because I'll just be sharing whatever I thought of then, maybe adding, subtracting, but I'd like to share this with you. So we're going to do our best to sort of simulate that. We'll start with this. First of all, I want to say before I forget this, that it's been a really interesting time we're living in, and a couple of people I know are passing over. So I want to acknowledge them, and one of them is the amazing Dick Sutphin. He is the grandfather of the whole Sedona spirituality movement. He really is. I mean, he was doing workshops, I don't remember how long ago, maybe 70s, if not earlier. Very much launched into the whole, he wrote books on the Sedona energy vortexes and so forth. So it really, really blew open, and Sedona probably would have half the spiritual resonance that it has if it weren't for this one individual. So just imagine being that influential in the spiritual community. I mean, this guy's got, wings that are going to take him very high into the heavens because of his amazing light work. So thank you, Richard, thank you. Lots of love to you and deep appreciation, and also lots of love from all of us and support to your beloved he's still here. And, I know that you'll visit her already. So God bless. And by the way, for both of you and for everybody else watching, somebody pointed out, which I didn't know, but when I did the talk today and mentioned Dick Sutphin having passed away, somebody said, here's a weird thing that happened just now, Michael. You just did a talk, which is our talk today, on cause and effect. You just did a talk on cause and effect. I've only seen Dick Sutphin speak once, and it was on the topic of cause and effect. So really, really cool cause and effect there, or synchronicity there. So blessings to him and to you all. If you don't mind, we're going to just take a moment to do an opening prayer. So if you would just be willing to turn your own home, your own living room, your own room, temple room, altar room, bedroom into a nice sacred space right now, then you join with us all around the world in that same space. Centering breaths. Heavenly Father, Mother God, in this moment, we give thanks that we have this opportunity to hear your word, to receive a download of your consciousness so that we can rise to higher levels ourselves. We give thanks that this is not only possible, but we also give thanks that this is happening now. And we give thanks that this is happening by our choice to step up and step into your light and presence. We also give thanks that once upon a time, we might have made different choices than this. And we're grateful that that is long ago. Even if it's 1 minute ago, it's now gone into the past. And we have new choices and a new life awaiting. And so it is. All right. So today I'm talking about cause and effect. And it's very important to understand cause and effect because the word basically means karma, or karma means cause and effect. Karma doesn't mean bad karma, which is the phraseology or the interpretation that spiritual people and non-spiritual people have given it. Karma, ooh, I've got karma, and it's bad. But that's not so. Karma is a very neutral, objective phrase, term, significant law. and that is cause effect. It just means neutrally, with no judgment, every cause has an effect. That's it. But it's important that we know that the ultimate cause is God, and we're God's effect with a capital E. So we are God and God's effect. So we're the creation, not the creator. We're created of God. And it's also important to know that when we say cause and effect, scientists are thinking in terms of, the law of what goes up must come down. That's their version of, it's as deep as they can get when it comes to understanding cause and effect. Because to them, it's all in the material world. Great song by George Harrison, by the way, Living in the Material World. But it's all about the material world. There's material laws that cause material effects. But in reality, cause is ultimately in consciousness. Please remember that. Cause is always in consciousness. Now, if I'm in a negative consciousness, I'm going to cause negative effects in my life. I'm going to cause negative effects, meaning shortage of funds, conflicting relationships, or whatever the case may be. So if I'm in a positive state of consciousness, because consciousness is the ultimate cause, if I'm in a positive state of consciousness, I'm going to see positive results. Therefore, positive karma, good karma, bad karma, it's all coming from my choice in which consciousness I want to live in, to be in, to exist in. It's also important to understand when we're in our spiritual consciousness, then we are co-creators. When we're in our ego consciousness, then we're not creating, we're making, make-believing. We're sometimes you could even call it manifesting. And it works because, we use the word manifest as a generic term to mean something's being created or manifesting. But for the sake of this conversation, think of we co-create or we manifest. If we're co-creating, it has to be done with the creator because God is the ultimate cause where it's effect. So plugging into God helps me be a co-creator and a co-causer, for lack of a better word on that, okay? But it's such an interesting experience because what's going to happen is, as I'm going to continue sharing here, the word responsibility kicks in because I'm choosing to come from love and God consciousness, then I'm a co-creator, or from my ego and fear, meaning I'm going to be making my own reality, which is a funny phrase because in spirituality, that's considered actually like, wow, I've graduated. I'm up there because I'm creating my own reality. That's very sad, actually, because if you're creating your own reality, then you are singled out, separate, and you're going to come from fear and ego. But when you co-create, you're not creating your own reality. You're co-creating God's only reality, and you're part of God. So it's not like you're left out of the equation. And so, when you think about this, it's like only the invisible is causing the visible. Visible does not cause invisible. If I have a splinter, it doesn't cause God pain because the manifest world, and the word manifest rather than co-create, manifest, I always say, comes from like the words man's infestation, manifestation, man's infestation, man's garbage, man's making, man's conjuring a reality, lowercase r, a reality of limitation, pain, suffering, as opposed to love, oneness, returning home, that kind of opposite vibe, like a completely different scenario. So keep this in mind because the sciences are only staying with the manifest world, the man's infestation world, and trying to talk about causes and effect. What goes up comes down. And they keep it in this tiny circle of cause and effect, but down in just the physical level, manifest level. Instead of understanding you pour things, you pour Of course, things the scientists, not all scientists remember, some are certainly spiritually based, but those who don't get it, that's the problem. And so, it's like, wow, the poor things, they're struggling to understand something like this with a circle like that down here. Instead, what if they have to understand this, like what the conclusion Einstein came up with? What if behind it all there is an ultimate cause, a consciousness that creates, not planets and plants and bugs that eat each other? No, it creates love. Man's infestation is what does the other. Adam and Eve did not take lives of animals. That didn't happen until they started falling, separating from love. And that's the things that's what we do to each other and to the animals and so on. So that's, man's infestation. But my consciousness co-creates beauty. It can, if I choose properly. So you have to remember that if I'm not in my holy God mind, co-creating, then how can I get whole of anything? How can I get a whole relationship? How can I get a whole income? If I want $10, I need to wholly believe in it, accept it, deserve it. But there are problems. If I don't believe wholly, completely, that's what I mean by whole, WH. If I don't wholly believe that I deserve it, it means I'm not in my holy, HOLY, mind. Therefore, I'm going to get $2 instead of 10. It's not about God wants you to have money like cash. It's not about thinking that thought that people get into because they shift linearly and think, I'm supposed to be prosperous and God wants me to be, and they go after money to prove their spirituality. That's not it at all. Why don't you prove your spirituality by being spiritual instead of by external means? Don't try to prove causation by using effect. Go to cause and have beautiful effects. Okay? Now, something I have to add to here, to this talk, something I've shared in many ways and many times, but remember when I say God's the ultimate cause, when we're with God, we're co-creators and a cause too, but here's the chakras representing God. So here's the ultimate cause. If I can tune into this place, I can actually get manifestations to enter my heart, mind, emotions, and body, the chakras. The body's physical chakra would represent the material world. The material world would mean that we are the manifested world, the three-dimension. So, but three-dimension doesn't create itself like it may seem. An acorn falls, it can sprout a new tree. It creates itself. It looks like that because that's the way we set it up, to make it look like it runs an automatic pilot. And if people weren't here, it would just continue to thrive. So that's the way we set this up. God is the source of all life. Not God is caught up in three-dimensional life. It's underneath 3D life. There's a frequency, a vibe, a light that is God that kind of runs it all. It's kind of like if you were explaining to a child, here's a light bulb, here's a light that's on, here's another light that's on, and here's another light that's on. And they're like, when you're trying to first explain that to them, well, how, why? Well, why are the animal kingdom, that's one light. The human kingdom, that's another light, and so on. And you're trying to explain, but see, honey, it's not the light, not the physical kingdom, the animal kingdom. There's electricity that comes into the house and it runs it all. That electricity that's invisible is God. So God is this power behind everything. So when we get in touch with the source of God, the only real and original source, when we get in touch with the source of God, if we could but allow it to enter our heart, mind, emotions, we would see it in our body, our life, externally. But when it does pour in, it could, because this is beliefs. The next is thoughts. The next is emotions. The next is the manifested world. However, when you're at this place, at this level, what happens is that instead of God is, I am, and we are, meaning the rest of my centers of consciousness, or God is, I believe wholeheartedly that God is. My thinking is all positive and reflects God is. My emotions are excited and happy because God is. And then my manifest world, bam, it comes together. So this beautiful flow through me, God, self, others, just this flow of absolute bliss to the highest level we can know in the three-dimensional world. Instead, what happens, if infestation is, I don't know about God, I'm not sure what I believe. Oh, my thinking, it comes and goes up and down. I have all kinds of manic thoughts, negative thoughts, they sneak in there. My emotions, oh, just a wreck. Physical life, forget it. Every kind of problem manifested. And see the difference in that flow? Everything down here has to originate up here. So, hold on, I'm messing with the lens here to get it. There we go. Sometimes it loses focus because I move my hands around. So keep this in mind that the causation is in consciousness. So the reason I mentioned responsibility earlier is that the physical world doesn't create the spiritual world. It's the other way around. So what consciousness I choose is what I will see. As Edgar Cayce put it, mind or consciousness is the source. Spirit is the source. Mind is the builder, meaning the chooser. Am I or am I not still one with God, which is what I said a minute ago. God, and let it flow through, and then it manifests. So spirit is the source. Mind is the chooser, the builder. Yes, I believe. Yes, I believe. Yes, I believe. And then boom, it starts manifesting in my intellectual, emotional, and physical life, symbolized by my three centers, lower centers. So it's so beautiful, really, how this could go. And, again, it's not a criticism to say we're an effect of God. It doesn't take away at all about that of who we are. If we're an effect of God and God creates in its image, then it lifts us to being part of God. It doesn't, take away from, oh, well, we're just an effect. No, we're not just, we get to be an effect, a creation of God. A beautiful extension of God. But again, if I want $10, meaning any symbol, guys, it's a relationship or a raise at work or whatever. If I want $10 and I only have one, the problem is not in the cause of God. The problem is something went wrong down here. And, you don't have to judge yourself for that. That's not going to help. But what we can do is say, when I don't have $10, I only have one, whose fault is it? You go down and out into the world judging and blaming because you're only dealing with physical world and you think physical causes are going to fix the world. You didn't give me a raise. You didn't stay married to me, or whatever the situation may be. Someone else's fault. All you're doing is venting root chakra out to the root chakra world. Instead, I'm going to imagine the lower three chakras being combined as one for a moment. That's why I said spirit's the source, mind's the builder, the rest is a result. So imagine that concept for a second. Now, when I want to forgive, it's God, self, and others. So when I want to forgive, I start with, down in my material world, let me forgive all people that have seemingly played a part in not giving me a raise and not making me feel lovable, etc. We're not saying that those things didn't happen. Okay, you slipped and fell. I'm not saying pretend it didn't happen. Ouch, it hurts. But what we're saying now is, instead of, and someone else caused it. Cause is consciousness. This is my manifestation. I must have been in the wrong consciousness. Again, don't blame yourself. Don't go into, oh, so it's my fault. No. It's your responsibility, but not your fault. So I'm going to go ahead and start forgiving others, which is going to involve a couple things, which is I'm going to stop hurting over what I believe they did to me, and I'm going to stop creating new judgments. So let me sort of wipe the slate clean on the past, and also in the present, I'll discipline myself to be careful not to blame. That's how to deal with others. Secondly, I have to go up to the heart, which is self, God, self, others. God is, I am, we are. So now in my heart, I have to say, the whole point of this forgiveness process wasn't to shift the blame from others to self. It's still blame. And that's going to hurt so much, you're going to be tempted to go back to blaming others. So no, I'm going to discipline that self, and no. And instead, I'm going to look at myself and say, you know what? I mean, here's how you can do it, guys. You just say, you know what? I didn't realize that the outside comes from the inside. The visible comes from the invisible. I didn't quite realize that. And now I get it. So it's not like I did something wrong. I didn't know. I didn't remember the rule, the law. And the law is good, man. The law is great, because now that I get the law, see, we think that blaming others makes us feel a little less, like things are our fault and so we're better off. When we get this and let others off the hook, something amazing happens. Many things, but one main thing is that the responsibility shifts to me, and then all of a sudden I go, well, if I have responsibility of this, I can be responsible enough to make new choices and say, God is, I am, we are. I can say spirit source, mind builder, the external is a result. Oh my God, so if my result is not going well, I'm going to just go inside and change consciousness, which is really a healing process that involves, taking the blames off others and self, surrendering it to God, and ask for something new to come in. Because you change consciousness if you want to change your, what they call reality, as it were. And when this channeling comes through us, it is absolutely amazing. So this sort of channeling of a new presence of God, a new consciousness sets us into a new vibration. And then the new vibration, you could say, also goes back and brings new consciousness. So here we have this cause effect. I have a new consciousness cause. I have a new effect, vibration. And the vibration, remember, comes all the way to the material world and vibrates into from the highest to, and it becomes my dense world. My vibration reflects as how my car runs. My vibration reflects as what foods I eat, what I choose to drink, the condition of my relationships. They're all just sort of, again, like material versions of my consciousness. I've shared this before, but studies were done way back. I mean, God, all the way back like to the 20s and so forth. And of course, ancients understood this too. But modern day science of this is back to about the 20s, where somebody takes a plate of glass and they put a fine powder on it. They take a violin bow and play the edge of the glass like a musical note, the way a person can play the top of crystalware, glasses. So you're playing the edge, and it's, whatever the notes are going to be. But when you play a note, all this powder starts vibrating until you stop with the note, and it's in a geometric, complex, beautiful geometric form, in a way like a snowflake. Then you change the note, it all bounces into another note, another image, another snowflake, another geometry. Why? Because it's very objectively reflecting the note played. The note played means your consciousness, creating vibration that creates a result. So to me, it's quite beautiful how this can all be and how it really does work. But people forgetting it, unfortunately, it just doesn't do much good. People forgetting this, they lose their power. They realize, God, my thoughts are not reflecting my divine nature. So therefore, my material world isn't reflecting a wonderful, consciousness, a choice of what consciousness to align with. So the last few things I'll share. I like the word because people use it. They'll say, well, I'm struggling financially. Why? Well, because my boss won't give me a raise. How you doing? Oh, I'm okay. Not doing well. Why? Because my partner left. Okay. Because means being the cause. Okay, now watch this. Why are you upset? Well, because my partner left. Be the cause. I'm telling you that they are my cause. I'm not being my cause. I'm, my co-creator. I'm blaming the cause on them. So when I can say, because my life is going well, God is good, and my life is going well because I align with God regularly. That's how that could be. Instead of my life's terrible because, and then, blame, here we go again. So one thing, again, I want to make clear, though, is that a lot of people think, well, okay, what if I die, or what if somebody died? I mentioned Dick Sutphin passed away, and he's such an incredible person and such an influence in the spiritual community. Well, it's interesting to me because once upon a time, I remember a great healer passed away. And I remember, people like, wow, this guy was incredible. He's so beautiful, so loving. And then, he passed away. Then someone said, oh, did you hear he passed away? Yeah, I did. Oh, yeah, bummer, whatever. And they said, and I thought he was spiritual, as though it meant because he died, he wasn't spiritual. And I didn't correct them, but I thought, isn't that interesting? You respected someone, and then you found a reason to take away the good you saw in them. Nothing can take away that good. And please remember this. Don't let anything in this world, including yourself, ever let you doubt goodness. You could have a mother that was stellar, like God, just almost a perfect 10 of a being and the quality of a being, but she left your father, and then hate her for it. No offense, and I don't mean to trigger any, unnecessary wounds, but I'm just saying, all you have to do is go, I'm sorry, in your mind, sometimes verbally, but in your mind, sometimes verbally to others, but in your mind say, wow, Mom, I don't know if I told you this, but you were a 9.8 of a being to me out of 10. I took this minor fragment of a percent, and I used that to blow all the good out of the water. And I'm very sorry that we only ever do that because we're in our ego. You could say we're in our fear, but it's ego. So spiritual teachers and healers and whatever else. I mean, it doesn't even have to be spiritual people. It could just be, my dad was really a great dad. And then you find a flaw and bam, you just go after it. You make that the thing, and you focus on the negative spot instead of the goodness. Now, of course, the challenge is some people will act 98 point something percent negative and only a spark of good. Well, it would help if you would try to embellish the spark of good by at least acknowledging that there was a spark of good. You could say, well, I really believe this was beautiful, because that soul, wherever they are on earth or beyond, that soul will be almost like that's a seed that gets watered and fed when you and I appreciate that spark of light. I know it seems like they're undeserving of it if they were that far gone. And I'm not saying to justify their hurtful behaviors. We do hurtful things. We don't have to excuse it at all. Now, I'm just going to decide that doesn't need to keep affecting me. Otherwise, I'm saying it's a cause of my effect. Me, I'm an effect of it. I'm an effect of God. Only an effect of God. The visible does not create the invisible. So if I'm aligning with God's self, this world, no matter what people do to me, at me, speaking, doing, of course it hurts. I mean, right? It's going to hurt. You're a human being. But you get to say, no, not today. Not today. It hurts. I'll go in and I'll mourn, or I'll beat on a pillow to get some of that out, but not today. Will you affect me? Will you hold power over me? No, not today. So instead, I'm choosing today to be, as they used to say, you know, the first day of the rest of my life. But this life isn't going to be just my bargaining or coping life. This is going to be my life in its highest level, my new life in its highest sense. So quite beautiful. But, you know, some people, they judge, you know, this person passed away, or, oh, you know, I heard, I remember one time in the 90s, this guy, he was like, he called me for counseling, and he was like, oh my God, wow, 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 on everything I was saying. How did you know that? How did you know that? Oh my God, I've never heard anybody put it that way. This guy was just being blasted with all this great stuff. And he was so in awe, like, wow, oh my God. At the end of our session, he's like, oh, I've been to counselor after counselor, and add them all together. And he was saying, it wouldn't be 1/10 of what you just shared with me. Mind blowing. I said, well, thank you. Yeah, that's good. And then he says, you know, so where did you go to school? I go, what do you mean? Well, you're a licensed counselor and all that. No. And then he added another thing. It just flashed to me. He says, well, you are married, right? No. And he takes the whole counseling session into a dive bomb with these words. Well, I'm sorry, but if you're not married, how could you know about partnerships? You have no real right to be speaking about. And I'm like, wow, how quickly. He didn't even end the session and hang up before he went into that usual ego-based dissent in judging things. And that's his problem. You know, well, there you go. So people will do that, but it's kind of sad, but it's also kind of predictable, which is even sadder. So, wow, it's like people will just try to tear things down. So watch yourself. Allow good teachers to be good teachers. Just allow that. You know, do your best. You know, I could say there are musicians and actors and models and so on, but there are musicians that I've known, popular musicians, and you know, some of them I thought, wow, this is the person, their lyrics and so on, they're like spiritually awakened, you know, when I was a kid. When I met these people at different times in my life, the first one was I was in middle school and met this really, really popular singer. And I was like heartbroken that he wasn't as spiritual as I thought. One of his members of his band wrote all the deep spiritual lyrics. He just sang and did drugs, you know, and I was like confused by that. Well, that was my idol falling. Mine. I put that person up there. So then here's what we say. Well, you know, I shouldn't have expected that, or, you know, respected them so much. I shouldn't have put them up on an aisle. What you're doing is passive aggressively now making an excuse to let them fall off the idol. Now, that's a little better than just hating them. But I'm asking you to not just go, well, I shouldn't have expected such goodness. Yes, you should. It doesn't mean be foolish, but don't, just because someone fails in an area, you know, I could love some singer, but I could hate certain shoe apparel and go, I love the singer. Oh my God, they wear such and such. Oh, well, forget it then. Does that sound deep? Does that sound truly committed to your spirituality? Not at all. So I really, for some reason, have always had that in me where, you know, to be able to see and try to continue seeing, like, it's almost like, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I wouldn't want people to just try to, you know, cut me off at the knees and watch me fall just because their ego's in, you know, control. I'd rather that not happen. It's hurtful to them and attempting to hurt me. But because I wouldn't want that, which does happen to spiritual teachers and public figures, but because I wouldn't want that, I don't want to do that to other people. You know, once in a while, it's tempting. You know, spiritual teachers that just, they charge too much, or, it's really kind of shallow or selfish. And sometimes it's like, oh, but I still, those of you who know me will know, I never name names, because they're just opinions, and they're areas that I believe it'd be nicer, to be able to make things more affordable. But, what God told me to do, well, then do it. So I do. Probably 3/4 of everything I do teaching wise is free and or on donation basis. It's, I charge for a few workshops during the year, here and there, but yeah, or classes, but I do almost all my talks for free. And that's kind of strange. It doesn't sound like a very prosperity thinking kind of a law to follow, but it is, because when you have the consciousness, the manifestation comes, or the creation, I should say, comes. All right. So, keep that in mind. But just because I'm saying, look, a teacher or you, there's going to be a flaw here and there. We have our cross to bear. So here's the vertical me that's plugged into God. But a cross, which has a short top, a longer bottom because of the head and neck on a cross, and the body, legs to the bottom of the cross. But what is going this way? That's the cross. It crosses this, your path to God. What is it that crosses? My belief systems are here. It crosses between knowing and believing. The ego was created as a veil between reality and illusion. And, very unfortunate that we keep perpetuating that. But I have my cross to bear. So one of the greatest initiations you'll ever go through is to allow yourself off the cross. How? Well, human race said, well, through karma, you're going to gradually dissolve the cross, and one day light's going to penetrate and you'll start to become enlightened. Well, that's true, but how many people in the many trillions, which is not, the numbers beyond that, but let's say many trillions of souls ever coming to the earth, how many of them made it through evolution? Evolution was created to stall so that we didn't have to go home too soon. Why? Because we're more afraid of our light than we are our darkness. So it's time to say, okay, off the cross, but how? Evolve? Yes, maybe you can, work on bettering yourself, but the number one tool, forgiveness. Forgiveness removes this, because this was the law of judgment, that I'm no longer holy. I judged, I'm not holy, and I fell to the earth plane. The Bible, the stars that fell from heaven, that's us. Okay? Forgiveness removes this, and we get to rise again. And, this whole concept of, this teacher was great, but I heard that, he didn't pay child support for a year or something, and well, that's a bummer, kind of a character flaw, perhaps. So I'm not supportive of that, but their teachings are incredible. I'll go with the teachings instead of the teacher. The teachings are great. But don't diss the person. Again, that's going to be hard sometimes because, some of the things we do. But just try to focus on as much light as possible. I've known spiritual teachers, colleagues that spoke at conferences with me. And I've had people, I used to like them, and we had a beautiful center in such and such a town. And then they moved. Can you believe it? They left us all. They hate them because they left. They're no longer spiritual in their eyes. That teacher's no longer spiritual because they moved. It's like, wow. But I'm telling you, this is not an accident. This is the ego waiting for its moment to find fault, called fault finding, So keep this in mind. And I'm going to close with a last thought. Just back to that concept of cause and effect. Ultimate sense, cause and effect is highly evolved teachings tell us that we're not the ultimate source of anything. We're the resource. So although some teachings that claim to be high will tell you, you are God, you are the source, careful. You're not. You were created and you didn't create yourself. You are an effect of God, but now with God, you're a co-creator, so you can be a cause to effects. You're not the ultimate source. You're a resource, but you can be a co-creator or co-cause only if you're centered in God and a state of love. Anything shy of that, then you're manipulating it, manifesting it. It's not able to just flow through. I believe that God is. I am, and I believe it. And through my thoughts that are going to try to beat it up, the consciousness you're trying to hold, the emotions that try to strangle it, and the outcome that just becomes overwhelming and depressing. You say, no, this is not the reality of God. People will scoff at you. You're just in denial. Why don't you just own that this is bad and this is bad and this is bad? Yeah, it does appear to be so on this plane. And if I were of this world, I would really be upset like you. But I also believe there's another world. And this is what, in part, what Jesus meant when they said, they're kind of, in the trial and all that. And he says a line that's strange to some people, because he said, if this world, if my kingdom was of this world, now listen carefully, if my kingdom were of this world, then my apostles would have fought to save me, protect me. And I'm like, as a kid, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Flipped pages. They tried to, and he said, stop. Is that one of those contradictions in the Bible that are kind of, strange and inexplicable, or is it something that's going to take a genius to figure out? So I sat with this, and that's the way to do, man. You just channel. You let God give you insights and answers to anything. Hence, the spiritual counselor, not the academic counselor, a spiritual scientist rather than academic scientist. A love-based parent rather than follow somebody's rules and guidelines type of parent. So Jesus says this, contradictory terms, okay? Stop protecting me. If my kingdom were of this world, they would have protected. It sounds like, well, they would have protected me. They didn't. Thanks a lot, guys. It sounds like like a tantrum. Guys, here's what he was saying. If my kingdom and I were of this world, I would have asked them to protect me. I did not. In fact, he told them to stop. I did not ask them. He wasn't accusing them. He was saying, I would have asked them if I was of this world. But I'm not of this world, so I didn't ask them because I don't care. And that is next to impossible to conclude, to understand, because, oh boy, guys, right? I mean, think about it. This world just tells us so much about its power, its strength. And, we're all too quick to play along. This world is real, all right. And you watch the news and you react to the news, but give yourself a break. You deserve it. We all do. I'm not saying deny. I'm not saying go to work and go over to the water cooler where they say these conversations happen and start correcting everybody. Well, that's an illusion. That's an illusion. That's inappropriate of you. Somebody says, oh, but my child died. Oh, it's an illusion. Get over it. Doesn't have any power. That's insensitive. You do it in here first. And you only do it out here in your words when you're guided to do so. And when you are guided to do so, to explain cause and effect, and that really this is all about our own lessons, instead of saying, well, your daughter must have had, or your son must have had his own lessons. Stop. Sensitivity, care, love. I'm sorry that happened, and so on. And, but I just don't understand, maybe I'll channel a hint. Yeah, it is kind of strange, but I do believe that we're sort of on our own path, even though we're kind of our parents helped lead us, and you probably did a great job. Still, we have to understand the kids have their own path. I don't care if they're 1 or 100 years old. They do have, and those little gentle words, they might go, yeah, I guess it's true. They might have their own. See, just bridging a little bit for today. And that's what we're asked to do. And that's what you would do if you understand any principles or laws like cause and effect. you'll be an example of explaining that as opposed to preaching it. All righty. Okay, let's close with a brief meditation. And actually, I'm just going to reference the lesson from A Course in Miracles today. My holy vision sees all things as pure. Very much in alignment with what we're talking about today. My holy vision sees all things as pure. So when I'm in a holy state of mind, I will see things as whole. Instead of whole would mean in a state of love, completion, instead of you won't give me a raise, you left me and broke my heart. That's not whole or holy. So if I forgive you, I start to reassemble and now I'm whole again or holy. So take a few centering breaths, please. And just allow this sound, try to hear this sound and allow it to, as it fades, just to take you in a deep, deep place inside. And along the lines of what we've talked about, everything I see comes from my beliefs in who I am. If I'm holy, I will see a holy world. I will experience holy things. When I see the opposite, anything shy of it, when I see and perceive, experience hurt, loss, lack, etc., it must be that my consciousness somehow has deviated from God and from love. I went into fear, hurt, judgment, doubt. To the pure, all things are pure. To the wicked, all things are wicked. That's in the Bible as well as in many Eastern traditions. So I seek and find purity. And the good news is I can work and evolve to become clearer and more pure, but I can also do this. What if I just accept that I've always been? Simply forgot and acted differently for a while, but that was a dream. Deep down, I know I never could have left the divine. I could only pause and dream, but never did I really fall. And the moment I thought I did, God gave the solution called forgiveness, the number one law of the universe. So in this moment, I envision and feel, I imagine and affirm that I've always been there. Some part of me has always been part of God, and I am very holy. My life is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. My life is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. My life is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. See, when I say my life is the Lord's, that's the cause, and the fullness thereof, the effect. My health is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Repeat that. My finances are the Lord's and the fullness thereof. This world is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. My work is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Everything here is God's and the fullness thereof. My friendships are the Lord's and the fullness thereof. My sexuality is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Everything being surrendered to God's hands now, so that the fullness can be experienced. No deviation, no limitation. I am as God created me, and I choose to be, I will to be the Christ on earth. And I know that that can never be unless I see the Christ in others as well. That's another cause and another effect. And so it is. That was nice. Thank you. So I'm going to do a closing prayer, the one we do at Unity. I want to thank you all for your time, of course. Thank you for sharing this sacred Sunday service with us. It's kind of funny because, I've got to do it all over again, and it's different. I shared different things along the way here today, but, I do it all over again. So it's an interesting thing because, all I do is gain from it, Some people would think, that's terrible. And it can be inconvenient, or it can be, oh, wow, you might have had other things you're supposed to be doing and all that. There's that kind of stuff, of course. And it's also a bummer sometimes because it's like, oh, there were a bunch of people that, there's hundreds that tune in, or thousands. They tune in and then it's not working. Something went wrong with the feed. So it's like part of me goes, oh, I feel bad, for those folks and so on. But today it came to me, it's like, well, wait a minute. Instead of just being bummed a little about that, do something about it. Let's just do it again. Now, if some people don't watch it, they didn't hear about it, they didn't see it, that's fine. But at least I know I did what I could to help the situation. Gave it another full chance, So thank you. And there'll be a donation button on here, so you can donate. We appreciate that, to Unity of Sedona. You can donate to me directly through the Foundation for Christ Consciousness if you prefer. But it's all the same because I donate to Unity anyway, So wherever you feel comfortable, but if you can, to Unity of Sedona. And we just got a new place a couple weeks ago, and we're renovating. It's beautiful. It's so cool. I hope you can all visit us at one time or another, but if not, I'm going to get a video done of the whole property so that you can see what we experience all the time. Because I want it to be part of you, because what I do is a global ministry now. I just don't think of myself as just a Unity of Sedona or a Sedona teacher or whatever. I've never thought that. I've always been traveling the globe to teach. But the last 10 years, that shifted a little, where I had to concentrate on building this wonderful spiritual kingdom of sorts called Unity of Sedona, this sacred, property and all that. And people have loved it and appreciated it over the years. So we upgraded quite a bit, from an older house, a lot of electrical issues and things like that could happen. It's fine. There's no problems. But over the years, something shorts, you fix it. A window leaks, you fix it. You do this, it can be expensive. But also this new place came along, and there's a fullness to it. Trees that are amazing, but instead of being at the other end of the property, as in the old property, this is all right there. It's just fantastic. And we could have stayed at the other place and, just put whatever, 50 grand or 100 grand or whatever into that place to sort of just get it all up to snuff, just to make sure it's all sweet. But getting this place and putting the same amount into this place and having a much richer experience, just the beauty, it's new, it's newer, so it's fantastic. So if you can donate, that's great. Our renovations are about 10 grand, so we're on pause now. So if you'd like to help, great. Be a resource of God to get that to us, wonderful. Part of that, all of that, a big portion, whatever it is, that you can do, we greatly appreciate it, especially some of you that never even will go there and still donate. That's just like such a major statement, so thank you. God bless you all. Join us again next Sunday, and if there's a problem with the feed, in Facebook. I guess we'll do this again, but there shouldn't be, and we'll get that all straightened out. Well, we can't really control their system, but we'll by then I'm sure they'll work out the bugs. So blessings to you, and thank you for everything. Like I said, you can make donations by clicking the button, but if it's not there, you can just make them directly to Unity of Sedona or the Foundation for Christ Consciousness. Okay. Also, you can join us for Friday night spiritual insights with Michael Mirdad. That's every Friday at 5:30 Arizona time. And these are, if this is the first time you're seeing this, these are 10 o'clock every Sunday morning Arizona time. So you have a couple of different options of things you can watch and participate in. All right. God bless you all. And our closing prayer at Unity. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. Thank you. Peace be with you all. Bye-bye.